Young man mentioned to me from the crowd just a moment ago that it was just a few short, maybe 150 some years ago, that patriots just like you all stood on these same brick streets, and we talked about a free state at that time, and look what they accomplished. They did it. Our next speaker, Mike Connolly, has been a small business owner in Nacogdoches since 1980, a 1974 graduate from SFA, 1977 graduate, post-degree from Texas A&M. Mike and his wife, Jan, it's okay, Mike, it's all right. We're friends. Have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. They're loyal members of Grace Bible Church and lend their time and support to the Greater Houston Golden Retriever Rescue. If you need a good golden retriever, I know the man to find one. We have one. And Hearts for Hearing of Oklahoma City. Mike will be speaking on the economic repercussions of Congress's current spending bill. You know, it was one of our better known and better loved presidents that made the comment, government's view of the economy could be summed up in a few short phrases. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. And if it stops moving, subsidize it. Mike?
Can y'all hear me? All right. Well, before I got up here, my pastor, Justin, he said, "Are you going to be nervous?" And I'm not going to be nervous because I'm talking to family. There has been much discussion about how this country got into so much debt. Well, I believe it's because we became apathetic, we didn't stay informed, and we accepted our politicians' lies as the truth. That's right. I'm here to tell you that changes today. We're here to tell Washington, D.C. that we are no longer apathetic. We are no longer uninformed, and we are no longer going to accept politicians that lie to us. So my purpose is to address the financial implications of continued deficit spending on our children, our grandchildren, and the deficit spending at the present level is taxation without representation. Every dollar that's spent in deficit is a tax that is going to have to be paid down in the future, and it's giving a tax bill to our children that they don't have a voice in, nor do they have a vote on it. It is certainly hard for us all to assimilate the large amounts of money that they talk about. You know, when I was in school, when you talked about $1 billion or $1 trillion, you were talking about how many viruses you could put on the end of a pen or the number of stars in a universe. No one would have imagined that money could exist in such large numbers. So I want to just kind of put these numbers in a way that you can kind of feel what they really mean to us. And I'll do something that most politicians won't. I'll be honest with you, and I'll admit that these are projections and not guarantees. And I base my assumptions on the numbers from the Congressional Office of Management and the assumption that our economy will still grow at 4% a year for the next 10 years. So today, the government takes in $2.5 trillion and has accumulated a debt of $11 trillion. The interest is $350 billion a year. What does that mean? That means the interest is $1,000 for every man, woman, or child in America. And we're paying it to the Chinese. So with the current proposals, we're going to add another $9.3 trillion in the next decade. That means our total debt will be $20 trillion in the year 2019. If the economy grows at 4%, then the government will be taking in about $3.5 trillion. So we will then have an interest payment of $1 trillion a year. So that's the gift that we're giving our children. 30% of their taxes just to pay the debt. $57,000 for each child. Thank you. So the question is, who are we, this generation of today? Our fathers are known as the greatest generation. They survived the Great Depression and then stormed the beaches of Normandy and Iwo Jima. Those that survived came home and built the greatest economic machine in the history of mankind. They put the first man on the moon. And they gave us two of our greatest presidents, John Kennedy and Ronald Reagan. I can still remember the day JFK was inaugurated. That bitterly cold morning, his words frozen in time. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I think we should take up President Kennedy's challenge anew, again today, and contrast it with our current president. While criticizing the Constitution, and I quote, he says that generally the Constitution is a charter of negative liberties. It says what the state can't do for you. It says what the federal government can't do to you. But it doesn't say anything about what the federal or state government must do for you. Is that the direction we want to go? So while the men and women of our armed forces have protected us, we sat at home and presided over a deficit that cripples our future. I ask, what shall my generation's legacy be known as? Will they say we partied on our children's money and left them with a hangover? No, I think not. I think they will be much harsher. Our fathers and our sons and our daughters were willing to die for the country, but we were unwilling to say no to our politicians. Thanks for hearing me. Repeal the pork, cut the taxes, cut the spending.